Hey guys, it's nurse practitioner student Howie, and I am just setting up my lighting here at home in my tiny home, which is also kind of basically a big closet. Welcome to tiny home living. And I don't have any time to go to the fancy office and do some lighting over there, so I just set up a real quick lighting here in between shifts because I just woke up and have to get ready to go back to work for night 2 out of 3 12-hour shifts. But guess what came in the mail, guys? Boom! The Psychiatric Nurse Practitioner, Mental Health Nurse Practitioner Review and Resource Manual. So I've heard good things about this manual. It's pretty cut and dry, and it's really dry, but it has some good chapters for me to study to get ready to take according to the ANCC, the new Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioner NP exam. So the PMN NP exam, which I will be taking at the end of the year after I graduate at the end of this year. Oh, can't wait. I really got to say that the nurse practitioner parts of the school is not that bad. If you just apply to yourself. If you apply yourself, you do the same study habits that you did when you were getting your bachelor's in nursing. Just maybe the concepts are a little bit different and you need to do a lot more critical thinking, and then it becomes a little bit scary because you have to think, you have to utilize skills that you've learned without being able to refer to a book because the book won't tell you exactly what to do. There's no step-by-step process. You really have to take all different kinds of bits of information and then apply that knowledge to a new problem and create a new solution. So that's the only scary part about nurse practitioner school when it comes to academia and didactic portion. But the most scariest part of nurse practitioner school for me was finding and keeping a preceptor. Oh God, you guys, I hate that part of the program, is that you have to find a nurse practitioner that was willing to precept you. And they're really busy and they're trying to create their own practice, and they don't have time to bring a student with them that's slow, asking too many stupid questions. But then also, they have their own lives. And so my nurse practitioner preceptor was great, but she didn't get along with her psychiatrist, and she didn't feel like she was getting paid a fair amount of money, so she quit. But that also meant I was happy for her, but that also meant that I lost we lost our access to the hospitals and the the behavioral facilities that we were visiting. So basically we lost access to her patients at the time. So she's fine now, but me, I couldn't get enough of my preceptor hours in. And I thought maybe, oh well, if I don't get my 135 hours in, like 12, let's say like 11, 12-hour shifts or whatever, then 10 to 12, then it's not a problem. I'll just roll it over the next semester and make it up then. But it was like absolutely not. My professor told me that like you have to finish all your hours within this semester now, otherwise we'll drop you from the program. So it was a lot of stress. I gained like 10 pounds, and work was being stressful. But that's just the life of a nurse practitioner student. You have to work full time. Well, I do. And you have to go to school full time, and then I go to a brick and mortar school, which has some certain advantages that I like and some big disadvantages that I don't like anymore now that I have to have a preceptor. So yeah. Anyway, hopefully that's going to be another terrible rant video that I'll do. But I can give you some perspective, maybe scare you a little bit into trying to find your own preceptor that you get along with. So this book, back to it, there's 12 chapters. I'm just going to read it before I have to get ready for work. Chapter 1 is a history. Chapter 2 is the theoretical basis of care. Chapter 3 is neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, and behavior. Chapter 4 is assessment and care planning for the PMHNP. Chapter 5, mood disorders. Chapter 6, anxiety disorders. Chapter 7, schizophrenia. Chapter 8, cognitive disorders. Chapter 9, substance-related disorders. Chapter 10, personality disorders. And Chapter 11, disorders of childhood and adolescence. And then Chapter 12, other conditions, disorders, and frequently encountered clinical problems like what? Oh, like domestic violence and sexual abuse. Yeah, those are pretty important. So yeah, let's talk about this book. I'm gonna go to work. Gotta get my coffee. Gotta get into traffic before it gets too crazy. And yeah, hopefully you'll have a nicer area other than just my little tiny house. To film in. Sorry. Bye. Just got through the first chapter of Psychiatric Mental Health Nurse Practitioner Review and Resource, and I just realized that this is oh my god, I think this is the first edition in 2003, and I'm supposed to be using the fourth edition. I don't want to pay $80. Although I might. Basically, I just did some notes. And the first chapter was all about the nurse practitioner role, history, professional issues, and future trends of the psych mental health nurse practitioner role. And I got through a very, very dry chapter. It also was my fault because I had all my social media stuff on, and that took me a while to get through the chapter. And it was just very boring. But some of the more notable things that I did see were, the history of the nurse practitioner role. Basically, there was a doctor and a nurse that wanted to have pediatric nurse practitioners take care of children in rural communities over in Denver. This is almost in the same time that the PA profession was also discovered and made at Duke University, which incidentally is where I wanted to get my PhD, but that's not it's years from now, because they have a good online program, and I'm no longer going to be making fun of online programs, because even though being in a brick and mortar nurse practitioner school is great because you get to have some resources and know your faculty and then get to know and befriend your classmates, driving there sucks, especially if you're working full-time. So online, it's going to be what I'm going to try next time for my PhD. So the history is that also nurse practitioners also have a hard time of getting reimbursed unless they are salaried, which is where a lot of nurse practitioners start, specifically FNPs. So I'm going to try to avoid that. Because I'm going to start probably working as a locum tenens and then try to open my own clinic as a psych nurse practitioner. So it's important to me. The regulatory statutory professional dimensions of the NP role. What is a statutory law? It may apply to healthcare or telemetry, because that's another avenue that psych mental health nurse practitioners can do, is do telehealth in a different state. But according to my faculty staff professor, you have to be under the same statutory laws under that state. I just realized why it's called statutory. Every time I hear statutory, I always hear this is statutory law, meaning that it's in the state. Okay, so very important stuff. The primary certifying body for psychiatric nurse practitioners are the ANA, the American Nurses Association, which is why we also have the Board of Registered Nurses. We're also under their program. And I also just want to reiterate that, I'm telling you now, but that the Board of Registered Nurses is not really there to support you, they're there to regulate you. That's why they're the board. So if anything happens, they'll be the first one to bring the hammer down, okay? So watch out. And if you're not doing anything wrong, then you won't have to worry about anything, right? But as we all know, medicine is never always it's never really black and white. So it talks about the scope of practice and the standards of practice, also again regulated by the American Nurses Association. Talks about a couple of associations for us psych NPs, including the American Psychiatric Nurses Association, the APNA, which sucks, by the way. I didn't do a really good look in the program, but I didn't really get a lot of resources. All I know is that the only, God, it's so embarrassing. The only group discussion that they have online is through Yahoo groups, and I don't even remember going through Yahoo groups. I mean, maybe back when I was in high school back in the 90s. It's awful. So I'm not going to renew my $100 there. I did start my subscription to Psychopharmacology Institute, which is great for beginners. I think it was if I had just done that instead of my psychopharmacology class, because my professor was crappy. They had a pharmacologist teach that class before I went in, but then she moved on, and then we had another professor, and she sucks. But I won't say who she is because she's helping me now. But being a good professor and being a good teacher are different things. So if I have to do a PhD, I most likely should be able to give back to our community by teaching. And, being a good teacher, you can't just put it on your resume or your CV and just say that you did it. You actually have to have good knowledge and command of, the material. Don't just have everybody do PowerPoint for you. It's stupid. I digress. Another organization is the International Society of Psychiatric Mental Health Nurses, ISPN. I'll take a look at that. That seems more global. They seem to have a lot of policies and issues and documents that I can download, so I'll look into that. Then it talks about the practice dimensions of the NP role. This is just regular stuff, informed consents and what the template should have. Just follow the template. Ethical considerations. You know what? If you want to know these ethical considerations, just know beneficence is to do good for others, and non-maleficence, that's the movie. Non-malfeasance is trying to avoid harm, which is similar to the Hippocratic Oath. You get those two together, you've already got like half of the ethics down. Also, ethics, the golden age of medicine is over. We're no longer just telling the patients what to do. You have to involve the patient in the treatment plan and the plan of care. It also helps them, be more coherent, but also adherent to the treatment plan. If the patient has a say in what you want to do and to help them with their health, then they're going to stick with it because they are also an owner to that. There's some epidemiological practices. Know that incidence and prevalence are different things. Prevalence is how much is happening. Incidence is how fast. Liability, know how to do quality assurance. Reimbursement, it's just sad because unless we're salaried with a physician, we really have a hard time getting third practice insurance. So I need to learn how to teach myself how to get better into being recognized so I can get the full reimbursement if I'm going to start my own practice. Evidence-based practices, these are all nursing stuff. Hildegard Peplau, nursing theory, stuff like that. The case study is pretty interesting. It involves, says that Karen Harris is a newly graduated PMHNP. She has worked as a psychiatric nurse for 5 years before going back to graduate school. She is considering working a job at the local community mental health center, but the director has told her that she would consist of mainly seeing adult patients with serious chronic and mental health illness. On occasions when the psychiatrist is busy, quote unquote, Ms. Harris is told she may be expected to see a small number of children in addition to adults. If you're a psych nurse, you should know that psych adults and psych children, not the same. There's different treatments and different prevailing diagnoses. I don't know if that's a word, diagnoses. When it comes to children versus adults, and children have cliques, children are much more sexually active and manipulative in that aspect because they're teenagers. They're kids or teenagers, and they can be very violent. So can adults, but adults also have depression and they have a lot of substance abuse issues. Teenagers not so much because they're still under the care of their parents, but the parents have some stuff too. So a lot of legal issues too. So be careful and trying to get into a practice where they try to make you see kids too, unless you're specifically trained for that. And it also says that the director who's interviewing her expects that she will, from time to time, meet the emergent medical needs of patients without PCPs, primary care providers. And this includes routine ongoing care of non-psychiatric conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, and pain. But there's a lot of red flags there. And I'm going to tell you right now that I would not take that job. So obviously, she doesn't take the job, but there's more questions. So this is pretty good. I'll look into the discussion later and we'll figure out from there, okay? Sorry this stuff is so dry, but you know what? It's necessary to be a nurse practitioner, specifically a psychiatric nurse practitioner, so sorry, this is dry stuff. But would you rather hear it from me or read it from the book? From me, right? Because I'm cool, all right? Nurse Howie.
Look at all those trees. It's so fresh and clean here. Maybe see it. Oh, there's a dude walking over there with his dog. Well, that is a nice walk. Okay, I think you will see the lake. It's right. I can't see the lake from this direction. Well, there you go. Imagine it.